Hey y'all, this is Grant Fletcher. You can find me on Twitter at Grant L. Fletcher, and you are listening to episode 26 of the 69-minute Eargasm. And with me, as always, is our host, the quintessential stud muffin, Joel Gertner. Joel, how's it going over there, man?
It's going well.
You know, I don't think our listeners are ever really tired of that, and I applaud you for giving them what they want.
Thank you, man. Yes, that's what it's all about. Keeping people happy and keeping America beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, if you're tuning in to a podcast with Joel Gertner's name on it, I mean, you know what you're getting.
Yes, if you're tuning in to an eargasm, you are turning Japanese. I really think so.
Are you speaking on your own preference, or is that just... You know what? Never mind. I think we should probably go ahead and just get to the episode today. What do you think?
I was making an allusion to the fact that we had Sonny Ono on recently. I don't know where your mind's at.
Oh, yeah. That's where I was. That's where I was going with that too. Yeah. And if you haven't heard that Sonny Ono episode yet, I definitely think you should go back and check it out. It's a really good episode. You know, we have a lot of episodes in our backlog that I think are...
that are really good episodes. Yeah, if you haven't heard Disco Inferno, if you haven't heard Mark Madden, if you hadn't heard Bill Apter, if you love Legends, if you haven't heard Kamala or Bugsy, we've got a ton. We've got a Valentine's Day special episode with Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes and Darby Allen and Priscilla Kelly. We've got a ton of great stuff. If you haven't heard a lot of the stuff that's prior to, last week or last month, make sure you check out the archives, deep dive into our vault, and you'll find a ton of great stuff. We've been around for a little while now. This is actually a great time to binge because we're between maybe, 25 and 30 episodes. So we've got an episode or two coming out in the next week or two that's going to push us closer to 30. So there are a lot of episodes of this most recent volume of the Eargasm. It's a great time to start to binge if you haven't heard our past stuff yet.
Yeah, and I was going to say, man, there's some episodes in our backlog that I think are what a lot of people might think are sleepers. You see a name on the list and you're not really that familiar with them, or you weren't necessarily that big of a fan of that person. You're like, I'll skip that one. But I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of hidden gems in there that, I'm really proud of the work we did on those episodes, like the Bugsy McGraw episode. I mean, he was before a lot of people's time that might be listening to this show, but check it out, man. He's got a lot of good stories about working the territories and working with guys like Bruno Sammartino.
Let me tell you, people seem to feel a vibe when they're on with us, and they seem to just provide a certain flavor, man. They really seem to go deep, get thorough, get emotional, it's a special, a lot of times, kind of interview. So I'd love to toot our own horn and say, we bring on great guests and we bring out the best in them. A lot of the time it's really that they kind of just really live up to going above and beyond, and they really bring out the best in themselves. But what you're saying is true, that, a lot of the time you might see a name on the list of people we've worked with doing these episodes, and it may seem like a name on a list, but when you really, an hour later or so, have heard what it is that they and how they have to say it, you'll realize that was time very well spent.
Yeah, and of course, our most recent episode, one that deviated from the path a little bit there with K. Trevor Wilson from Letterkenny. Did you get any good feedback on that one, Joel?
I did. I think a lot of people enjoy the fact that we don't keep it uniquely wrestling, and that sometimes, people from quote unquote outside wrestling who really, though, are from our world and they share our interest and they share our love and our passion for wrestling, when they've gone ahead in their own lives and done great things and had great careers that maybe are mostly comedy or mostly music or that kind of anything like that. I think a lot of people dig hearing folks like that on the show. It's something we're going to keep doing. We have, just off the top of my head, another couple of friends from the comedy world that in the weeks to come are going to be on the show. We've got a couple of guests from the music world that are going to be on the show. I'm glad that people are loving that. And yeah, we can't wait to bring a lot of that to you.
It's been really cool, man. It's been really cool just sharing this with as many people as possible. People from all over the world. We're getting a lot of good response from folks out there. And today's episode is really no different. And I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions for you, Joel, about this show and your career and whatnot. And honestly, if there was a good way to pick your brain about that, there would be one way to actually get in touch with you to talk about any of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I seem to be addicted to Twitter. I mean, I love being on there. I live on my Twitter, so you could always hit me up. I mean, follow me on Twitter and shout at me there at Studmuffin Says. I'm reachable on Instagram at Quintessential Studmuffin. And this show has its own Twitter account, by the way, as well. Please make sure you're following. You can be one of the first followers, one of our founders there. Please make sure to reach out to us on Twitter at 69 Minute Eargasm. But yeah, we're around and happy to talk with the listeners, man. We love hearing feedback, positive. We love criticism. We love rate and review, and we love all of it, man. We just love people letting other folks know that they're hearing the show and that they're having a great time.
Yeah, and if you ever wanted to talk to Joel directly, well, what you could do is you could go to prowrestlingtees.com/Joel Gertner, pick you up a Grapplex t-shirt, make sure you leave your phone number, and somewhere in the near future, Joel will actually give you a call so you can talk with him as well. Just make sure, if you see an unlisted number there that you answer, because most likely it's Joel giving you a call. And yes, to answer a lot of the questions you guys have out there, we are still selling Grapplex t-shirts. The CEO of Grapplex, Ray Dacron, is on the lam. We think, we're pretty sure. Has not been heard from myself or by Joel, but we do still have a pretty healthy stock of Grapplex t-shirts. Mysteriously, the warehouse got some more of them. So yeah, we are still selling them at prowrestlingtees.com/Joel Gertner.
He's still alive. He always told me that. That's how I know. It's the guideline, is that he always told me, as long as there are Grapplex t-shirts to sell, I will be alive. So he escaped successfully from prison, and that's okay. And that just means that he's, whether he's living or dead, it means that he's alive, because there are still shirts to sell. That much I know.
Yeah, either figuratively or literally, Ray Dacron is still alive, because we do still have Grapplex t-shirts, and we're thankful for that because it does keep the show on the air, so we can bring you episodes like this one right here with a very, very great guest.
Hey, we're going to be talking, by the way, in weeks to come to Gregarious Greg Hansen, who bought a Grapplex t-shirt. He may or may not have been the first to buy one on Pro Wrestling Tees, and this was weeks ago, but he's still kind of, he wants to put his best and most accurate foot forward, and he still wants to tell the most thorough and again harrowing tale about his he met with Ray Dacron. And when I say he met, not just that he met him, but that he met with him, I don't mean he met with him like, hey, me and Grant had a coffee earlier today to talk about the podcast, so we met with each other. I mean, he met with Ray Dacron like one meets with impending doom. And again, a harrowing tale of t-shirts, of financial transaction, of what legally I think would be deemed as home invasion. We'll get to it. We're going to bring it to you, and for listening to it, may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, one thing I can say that is fortunate for Gregarious Greg is he actually knows what Ray Dacron looks like. I've never met him. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I don't even know what he looks like. I saw a picture of him one time, but in the picture it was kind of like he was sort of to the side, and it looked like he was moving, so it was kind of blurry, and he's wearing some big sunglasses. So honestly, if I saw him in line at Starbucks, I still wouldn't know it was him.
Men in Black style. It's crazy. Like, I saw a picture of him one time, and as a result of seeing the picture, just subsequently, because I saw the picture, forgot immediately not only what he looks like, but anything else I had learned in the previous 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you weren't doing anything
and I don't know
else.
if that happens to everybody. Like, I don't know how much of Greg Hansen's life has been lost because he crossed paths with, the human black cat, probably the one that Janet Jackson was singing about, known as Ray Dacron from Hertz de Governor. Who knows?
Wow.
I don't know. I'm the last one asked.
That's an incredible tale. Nonetheless, we are thankful to Mr. Jack Ron for keeping us on the air. Helps us bring you episodes like this very one right here with a very cool guest. It's a guest who's been around for a while, a guest who's done it all, really.
Yeah, he's been there. He's been there. He's run the lemonade stand. He has been to the ice cream truck. He has been to the rodeo. He has seen it and he has lived it. And man, the interview was just, we talked earlier about how people put their best foot forward and they're really, really thorough and they go into detail and they give us, aspects of their lives. A lot of stuff, we talk about people's professional lives. We do, we talk about people's careers, but a lot of people really go into detail about their life, even beyond wrestling, their personal lives. And sometimes that's even more interesting. And it was just a really, really cool talk with a really, really cool cat.
Yeah, he's got a great story, man. This is a really good phone call that you had with him here. We talks about, being that kid who was a fan of wrestling, and then all of a sudden he just finds himself in the middle of it. And he's got a lot of great stories about guys like Sting and Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. And it's a good listen, man. I'm excited to share this with everybody.
Absolutely. So without any further ado, Grant, take it away and put us into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to leave us a review. Be sure to drop us a rating. Check out our Patreon. Follow us on Twitter. He is at Studmuffin Says. I am at Grant L. Fletcher. This is Scotty Riggs.
American males, American males, American males, American males, American males, American males, American males.
And welcome back to more 69-minute eargasm. And my guest this week, maybe an unlikely guest, because my guest this week, back in those ECW days, was a member of a faction that was definitely a rival faction of mine. He was a card-carrying, full-fledged member of the network. But what's crazy about that is that beyond professional wrestling and in real life, he's not just one of the realest guys that I ever had the pleasure of coming across as a member of the wrestling family, but he's somebody that I got along with really well, and somebody who I always valued his friendship, and I was always very thankful and felt blessed that he accepted me. And we just kind of really always got along. We've stayed in touch, and I'm really, really thankful that he's taking the opportunity and the time I'm glad we have the opportunity to be with him and to share his time this week. It is none other than Scotty Riggs. Riggs, how are you, man?
Brother, how do I answer? How do I come back from that type of intro, bro? I mean, I sit back and my first actual comment to you was going to be, dude, the coolest thing ever was when I came from WCW and walked into the ECW dressing room for the first time. Basically was you guys were at Center Stage in Atlanta. I think Eric Watts was working with you guys. A few other things were going on. And I just came in to say hi, talked to a few folks. I talked to Dreamer, saw RVD, of course, and I talked to Paulie. Let them know I was done with WCW, and, I would love to come and work with you guys. But the coolest thing is the minute I walked in, everyone there, from Francine, Sandman, Carino, Victory, yourself, all of you, Blue Meat, Riggs, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Da 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 da. You know, everyone was just so freaking cool, so freaking just. I mean, they welcomed me like with open arms, like I belonged there, and I'm like going, dude, I'm just a guest visiting, and if I can get a job, you know, working with you guys, it'd be awesome. And I actually, Dreamer and Heyman pulled me aside and said, hey, you know, what's your deal? You know, are you finished up with WCW time? I can't remember exactly when the show was. It might have been like in early January. But I had actually finished up my last date of my contract with WCW was the 31st of 99. So I was pretty much done. Had a couple more paychecks coming in from WCW. And Jimmy was like, well, we don't want to mess with your money coming in if you sign with us and something like that, even though you're contractually free and there's nothing going on. Because I, you know, just discussed with them, well, you know, what the whole deal was. They said, we'll give you another, you know, couple weeks and we'll call you, give you a starting date to make sure that your money doesn't get messed with. Because, you know, they had a lawyer who he was one to you next Tuesday, you know what I mean? And she was brutal. She was just one of those chicks that just, I remember when I left there, I was like, I came to the office and she, you know, I signed my papers and, you know, so I was leaving. She goes, well, you can't use the Riggs name. I said, what do you mean? Well, we promote it and everything else. If you use it, we will sue you. I said, excuse me? She goes, we will sue you. That was like her words to me. You know, it was not even that. I said, I created it. I came up with it. And, well, we promoted it, so we own it. I said, you don't own it. Well, we will trademark it then. Let's go for it. You know, if you want to follow all the paperwork and do all the work, go for it. If you feel like you have to do that, we will sue you for if you use it. I was like, wow. That's the last thing I remember from talking to the chick. I was like, well, I'm done with this. I'm out of here. I'm not done with you guys because I don't want to be involved with somebody this blatantly bad. It's brutal. And, you know, just long story short, got out of there. And when we first came out, I can't remember where the TV was or anything of that sort. I walked in the door and it was the same type of thing. Dude, we are glad you were here, you know, and you made me feel like I was so welcome, like I already belonged. But you guys had a tight-knit group. You guys were your own company. You guys were your own personas. And you brought me in and I feel welcome. So for you to welcome me that way, I'm sitting back going, dude, no, I was grateful and blessed to be welcomed into your locker room the way you did. So, I mean, to give you that orgasm right there, you know, to quote your own show, you know, to me, I was honored to be just welcomed in your dressing room. That you know, you guys already made me feel like I didn't have to, even though I didn't have to earn my way. It was still the same situation of like, you know, I was welcome. So I remember one time, I remember this is the real funny for you. The first time I ever came into the ECW arena was '95. I had an off weekend. Maybe it was early '96, but it was '95. I was one after World Tag Team Champions at the time. I came in to see Rob and everybody else. I remember I walked in, and a few of the guys came over. Hey, what's up? What's up? But it was like from Taz was sitting in the corner and just looking at me, and I could already hear the murmuring. What's this WCW guy doing in our locker room? I always hear see Rob and what's he doing in our room. And this is the first time I was in the arena ever. So I got to witness the show, and it was the same night that Kimono Wanalea did her dance on top of the stage. So I got to sit back and where one of the holes were in the wall and watch her do a little thing. So. Yeah. So it was a heck of a welcome even to that point right there. And I just came to visit, say hi, and just, you know, to watch your show and enjoy it and be part of the atmosphere. Because the New Year atmosphere was live. It was live ammunition. And so it was really cool to be a part of that, just to witness it there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, but you talk about, you know, sometimes having to kind of earn respect, and there's a kind of like a feeling out process, and there's kind of, you know, people can be kind of, you know, they might be trying to figure you out and just see kind of what you're made of and that kind of thing. And you know, in ECW, I mean, being there as part of the family, you know, after I was there for a while and just kind of week to week, and as people got to know me, you know, never any problems. I got along with everybody and I was blessed. But along the way, you know, a person here, a person there, maybe early on when I first started and I was so young and everything, and I was kind of, speak when spoken to, and I was kind of a lot shyer off camera than I was on camera. And, whether it was one thing or the next, there were occasionally moments, and sometimes with people that I would eventually feel, very close to and very comfortable with, and we'd be great friends. But there were moments with certain people, even amongst those that worked with me, that they would kind of be like, well, where's this guy coming from? Let's see what he's made of. Like, what are his motives? Like, what's, and it's just kind of, there was kind of weird vibes and weird chemistry. But with you, it was just, what struck me is that from moment zero with you, when it came to me, it was just, it seemed like you were willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. Anybody that was cool. And it just seemed, at least the way I perceived it from me, it just seemed like there wasn't any of that feeling out, having to earn it, this, that, and kind of where does this guy come from? You were just kind of very, very, friendly, accepting, down to earth, just kind of like the realest, fearless, cold, fearless, holy, fearless guy that I met that week. You know what I mean? Just kind of like, real easy going. And I never forgot it, and I certainly always appreciated it. Scotty, if you don't mind, let's go back to the beginning. I guess it just seems reasonable that it seems logical, I guess. I always start off at the beginning, and I always dial it back, and it's not even just the beginning of the career. Like, it's not even like maybe where your Wikipedia page would begin, but it's even further back than that. I like to go all the way back to when we were kids, how we were growing up, who we were when we were growing up, wrestling and otherwise. So I don't just go back to the beginning of the career, but I want to know if somebody was a fan or not. If they were a fan, where were they living? When were they growing up? What kind of stuff were they seeing? So if you don't mind, let's go back to the beginning. Tell us who Scotty was before he was training, before he was in the business. Tell us about life growing up as a kid and what your first exposures to professional wrestling were.
Well, basically, from what I remember, the coolest part of my Saturday mornings, my dad would either have to go to work that morning for half a day. He worked at at Certain Seeds, a roofing product company, and he worked as a chemist there and helped create things and do stuff and test things. But long story short, they had a paper part of their thing, and he would find wrestling magazines and bring them home. And that was kind of my introduction to wrestling, because he was a wrestling fan, I guess you could say. So I remember, and so my Saturday mornings would kind of start off watching the Three Stooges with him. So I'm a huge Three Stooges fan. And then when he would leave to go to work, I would keep watching either some cartoons or something. And then around 11 o'clock, so he's going to bring those wrestling magazines home. Around 11 o'clock on the local station, kind of 11, NWA Worldwide Wrestling will come on. So I grew up in the South. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and grew up on the NWA, basically watching Georgia Championship Wrestling from Florida, the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. So I was a big, huge, fan of the studio wrestling, where you had, especially from Turner on TBS, where they had the World Championship Wrestling set and everything going on there. So I grew up on that. I still remember some of the biggest first feuds I remember seeing were like Paul Jones, Blackjack Mulligan, Rufus Frazier and Jones, Wahoo McDaniel, Greg Valentine, even Johnny Valentine. I caught him towards the end. I remember seeing some of the stuff here and there. And, the Armstrongs, Bullet Bob, seeing them on shows, Ted DiBiase. Just so many memories of the early 70s, probably around 8 years old, around 77, 75, 76, 77. I remember it was around the bicentennial year was when I really started watching wrestling on a weekly, consistent basis. And it was every Saturday morning, the 11 o'clock show, and then Wrestling on TBS was coming on. No, it wasn't come on there yet. But also 11 o'clock at night. I'd be able to stay up with the Saturday night and watch it. And then my dad started getting to take me to Savannah Civic Center to watch wrestling shows. So every other weekend, it was either every second or every third weekend, the Georgia Championship Wrestling and Mid-Atlantic Wrestling would be running shows. So they would have Wrestling 2, Wrestling 1, Tim Woods, the Anderson brothers, like I said, Black Jack Mother. I was a huge Anderson brothers fan. Owen Gene, not Arn, but only of the old days of Owen Gene Anderson. And they would always be either fighting Ricky Steamboat and Paul Jones or Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. I just remember going back in the day of going to the matches. Me and my dad would have ringside seats, first row, good guys corner. Seat 1 and 2 usually, or seat 3 and 4 was seat 2 we get. We knew one of the cops that lived down the street that worked the show also, and he enabled it for me to be able to get the ring jackets of the guys. So I would hop over the guardrail, like they would hop over the top rope, so I thought it was cool. And I would sit there and get Ricky Steamboat and, his little lady, he would layer the beads, and if I was going to take his jacket off, I'd take it in the back. And then I go to the other corner, and this is one of the funniest things in the world. I still remember it almost clear as a bell. Getting Ric Flair's robe. He's about 77, 78. He's handing the robe over to me and goes, "Kid, don't drop this. It's $10,000 or something like that." And I'm this 8, 9-year-old kid. You're talking about going, "Oh my God, Ric Flair," and he's talking to me. And I get his autograph that night in a very, very weird way. He comes walking around the corner. I look at him. I pull out my autograph book and look at him, and he just shakes his head no. I'm going, man, that sucks, And then I guess he saw me kind of shake my head and turn down, and then he goes, "Hey, kid, come here." And he walks around the corner away from me. I go over. He gives me his autograph. I was like, wow, I got his autograph. So to me, that's one of the coolest things in the world. So here I am, this kid playing football, I'm playing basketball, I'm doing all the things that a kid does, but I'm a huge wrestling fan. And there'd be a couple of guys that knew I watched wrestling in school. We would actually do pretend matches during recess or during PE class to be active. We would we'd go do wrestling matches in the corner of the gym, stuff like that. And so that's just 20 years later, I'm actually in the ring with Ric Flair. I'm actually going to a club with Ric Flair. I'm actually traveling with Ric Flair in the same car with him at times, driving here, driving there, seeing him at the gym, all this stuff. And now even at this day, almost 40 years later, 50 years later, I send him a text every now and then, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" Him and Wendy, "Love you guys," get a message back, "Love you too, brother," something like that. It's a quick little thing that once every few months to send a text, or I'll get a text. And so it's just kind of weird how you start off with one person and years later go by. And you get, you actually get to share the ring with the guys, share the square circle, share the craft of the wrestling business with, that, and they would teach you while they're in there. And I still remember some of the first matches I had. He really did stuff with me, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a lot of drop kicks, a few back drops, a few arm drags. And then I earned his respect from basically traveling with Sting and Lex, and he saw what I could do, and we worked a couple of tag matches together. Next, he's calling the match and letting me do the slam off the top, letting me do this, doing all these things that normally he doesn't do with anybody else, except for people he likes and trusts and respects. And he actually let me call the finish in a match that we did, where I said, "Dude, I know we're doing your figure four. Can we go into it this way?" And it's basically him with my flying forearm, go for the cover. He puts his foot on the ropes. I go to the opposite corner. He comes up staggering, holding his face. He falls into the ropes. I fall off the top. Leg whip my leg over the top rope, like my leg got whipped by the top rope. He slaps on the figure four. So, and boom, it's over. He had Liz and Miss Elizabeth and woman with him. They didn't know I was doing that. Nick Patrick didn't know that I was doing that to the finish. So when I fell, Liz, you could see it on TV, Liz and woman, both of them, their expressions were like bug eyes, "Oh my gosh," they put their hands up to their faces. Nick Patrick popped down, "Are you okay? You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." And Rick even did the gimmick where he stuck his hands out and after all that, he puts his hands out and has the woman grab his hands for the extra leverage. So that's a long story to tell your journey from a kid who got Ric Flair's robe to then actually having a match with him that he actually allowed me to call a finish and meant something. So it was, it's kind of a cool story to go along with a guy that just you start off as a fan with and you get shared over with. And so that's how my career started, in that sense of just being a fan. I went through high school. I went to college, went to West Georgia, did Division II school, played football there, and the guys who was a wrestling fan, I had posters of the Road Warriors, Magnum TA on my wall. Just a couple of them, just after you look back and go, okay, this will fire me up going to practice. You get your Road Warrior poster on the way out, and whole 9 yards and going to class. And then I was, at VCRs back in those days, so I record the shows because it'd be in study hall and the Clash of Champions or something beyond. So I record a show and get back to the room and watch it, Late night, a couple of guys would come in the room and watch it with me. And then on Friday nights, I think it was Friday nights, we would have a wrestling show that would come on one of the local channels. It'd be a couple-hour block of wrestling. And we would have curfew because we had the next day. We were in the dorm. We'd have curfew. We had to be in our rooms, but we didn't have lights out yet by 8 o'clock. So the shows would come on like at 9, and then Coach Rohan, our head coach, would walk around the dorm, check on everybody. Remember, he walked into the room and we watched the wrestling. There's 3 or 4 of us in there. And I can remember clear as well, he goes, "Man, I had one of my guys that turned into a pro wrestler. He's a heck of a guy. Can't remember his name anymore. But he, it's kind of crazy. You're sitting there watching. Wrestling's kind of cool." And then he just turned on and walked back out. And then years later, and no more than probably 3 years later, I started training and had my first match right before I actually graduated. So, yeah, it was probably 2-3 years from that period when he came in that room where I kept playing ball and stuff like that. And then I had my first match February 6th, 1992. So basically all the way through grade school, high school, college, wrestling fan. Used to go to see matches at the Omni on a Sunday. We would drive down, catch the MARTA, drive down from Carrollton, where Atlanta was. It was on I-20. It was like a 45-minute trip into Atlanta. Drive down, catch the Omni train, or catch the MARTA train, go to the Omni. And I was a good-sized kid, about 6 foot, about 215, good build, looked good. And I could sit, and I would actually sit back and go into the, I would just walk in the back door, what the wrestlers did, act like I belonged, and they let me come in. And then I actually started, long story short, I actually started working with the ring crew a little bit on a few shows. Klondike Bill and Gordon Nelson, old wrestlers, but they would sit in the ring. I would actually get to the show for free, not doing anything, and actually tear the ring down with them afterwards. I started meeting some of the boys. I would actually hang out in the dressing room. The boys didn't know who I was, but I acted like I belonged. Nobody said a word to me. And, wow, you did different things, different times. I remember actually, I told Sting this story once. I told the Pender. I remember it was one night, I think it was the night he actually got hurt by Vader in a match there. That beginning of the show, I got his autograph. And this is probably 91-ish. And so 4 years later, I'm basically traveling with him, working out with him, training with him, playing golf with him and everything else. But about 91-ish, maybe 92, I got his autograph at one of the shows. And I told him that one day we were down there. I said, "Dude, back in the 90s, I was in college and we did this and did that and I actually got your autograph." He said, looks at me and goes, "Dude, don't tell nobody that story." So, yeah, it was one of those things. I was like, "Dude, if you want to bury yourself, tell other people that." He goes, "But dude, you never tell me and don't tell nobody else." So that's kind of the evolution, I guess you could say, the childbirth of Scotty Riggs becoming a wrestling fan, being a wrestling fan. It all started with my dad bringing the magazines home when I was a kid, and then he read look at the magazines and watching the Three Stooges and watch wrestling with them.
Man, so I don't think you were on the Indies very long then. I mean, it seems like it wasn't so long at all, really, before you wound up starting out in WCW. But talk about kind of the early years and, from getting in, like, just walk us through the first few years.
Like I said, my first match was, I remember it was February 6th of 92 in Carrollton, Georgia, this little redneck town. Basically, a few months beforehand, a couple of us got together to go watch this redneck show because a couple of guys saw a sign for it and they didn't know I was a wrestling fan. 3 or 4 of the wrestler guys, or not wrestler, but football guys who were going down to watch the matches. We had a snowstorm hit that night, though. And so the show basically got canceled. But we walked over, or we got in there, walked in the building, and a guy named Ted Allen was there, and he wrestled as a Nightmare. Ted had trained Arn Anderson, Big Boss Man, Ranger Ross, helped Randy Anderson, the referee, in. Did a lot of things in Rome, Georgia, with a lot of the wrestling there. And basically, I just started talking to him, didn't know who he was. I just basically said, he goes, you're looking good. You ever thought about being a wrestler? I said, yeah. And so basically, I had about 3-4 weeks of training. We trained twice a week because they owned a little building. It was an old auto parts place that had basically been gutted. So they had a big wide area of where they used to, do the car work. So they had a big open building for that. They had a small area they could use for dressing rooms and stuff like that. They had 2 separate entrances, so it looked good. And so the ring was up 24/7. Ted would train guys twice a week. We trained Saturday morning. They had matches Saturday night. So I basically trained for about 3 weeks. 6 sessions, basically learned to run the ropes. And things came naturally to me just because I watched it so long. I kind of knew what to do. If you saw somebody doing something, you could feed into an arm drag. You didn't sit and wait for somebody to grab you. You just actually go. And so Ted, he saw a few things into me being young, and things just come naturally. So in 3 weeks, I had my first match, wrestled a guy. The very next week, wrestled him again. We basically did the exact same match, except I wore different tights, he wore different tights. I was a bad guy. We flip-flopped the winners of the matches. In the 3rd week, we did basically the same match again, but there was a crowd of about 100, 200 people there. They were drawing pretty good house, and things just went well. And so Ted was always watching my stuff. The next thing I know, Ted started taking me to Cordele, Georgia, where Ben Masters ran shows. I would help set the ring up, help set the chairs up. We traveled with Ted, and I would wrestle Ted most of the time, and he would train me in the ring. And Ted wore a mask, so we could do stuff. He would talk to me. We would do a spot. We would do this. We would do that. And he would sit back, and I'd have him in a hold. I had him like an armbar or something. He's like, listen to the crowd. You have a crowd reaction? That sucked. We won't do that again. Or you were sure of this. Do it quicker. They might get a better reaction next time. We'll set it up to do it again in a little bit. And this is how my matches went. They would talk to me just like a training session. Except we were doing it in front of a live crowd. So that's kind of how I learned to work, was in the ring, live crowd, a veteran walking me through the paces, tell me, listen to this, listen to that, see how they react, see what sucks, see what's good. And on the way home, after he turned the ring down and everything else, you could keep my stuff. You go, well, why'd you react this way? Why'd you do that? And so the next progression was to kind of Greg Price. Ben Masters kind of told Greg Price about it. Greg would bring a couple of wrestlers down. I think RVD brought him down one time to wrestle down for Ben. And Greg watched me work, like myself. So Greg started booking me. So Greg would run 2-3 shows a month, or 2-3 shows every other couple of weeks. He would book me on 3 shows here. So I would wrestle on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. get home on Monday, earned about, a couple $100 for working shows. I'm working in Virginia for Greg, South Carolina, Georgia, and so he's booking all these towns. And so that's how I got to know Rob, and or RVD, as fans might be friends with Rob. But I got to know RVD, and Greg would book us in matches either against each other in babyface single matches, or he would put some tags every now and then. And so that's how me and Rob kind of began a chemistry working against each other way back when, like 93, 94. And around that same time, I started working at Main Event Fitness, Lexus Sting's gym. And they basically, that's how I met Mick Foley, of all people. Got to know him fairly well. Funny story with him. Him and his wife Colette were moving to Atlanta. They were in an apartment. They wanted a house, and he got a house. I can't remember what the lake is, Altoona or something like that, but one of the lakes. And he needed somebody to help him move some stuff out from the house, like finish moving stuff. And so basically, he had me, he saw me at the gym and said, "Hey, kid, you want to help me move?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, I cut your shack, cut your shack move stuff." And Mick kind of worked me a little bit on the way there, back and forth. He would do his little head twitches and do a few things, a little crazy verbiage every now and then. He was just kind of like, I think, having fun with the greenhorn. He knew I was a worker, but he kind of stayed in character a little bit, just to mess with me, not do anything bad, but have a little fun. And that's how I got to know his wife Colette and everything else. I got to know. Now I can't think of the kids' names. I can see their faces, but I can't think of their first two kids' names right now, which is kind of suck. But Noel and Dewey.
Dewey, yeah.
I got to know the friend, Kane Dewey. But I got to know Noel and Dewey at Main Event Fitness in their little babysitting area, their little kids area. And so it was real funny. For a very, 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 very short period of time, Nick was mad at me because I was Dewey's favorite wrestler. Even though he didn't know who I was, all he knew was Scotty would come and see him, and every now and then Scotty was his favorite wrestler. For maybe I think a day or two, but he heard it enough that he kind of laughed about it. And so then after that is when I got to know DDP a little bit, and a friend of mine that was running shows of Atlanta also had a karate school and had a wrestling ring set up in the back of his karate school for us to work out in, and told Paige about it. So instead of going all the way down to the south of Atlanta where the power plant was, I said, "Paige, why don't you come over here, get a friend's ring over here for and check it out, and she's going to work through workouts in instead of going down there." So there was one day, he was using me for basically a punching bag and a tackling dummy, whatever you want to call me. But he brought Brad Armstrong, Steve Regal, and Jake Stick Roberts over. And we were working, and like I said, I was basically a punching bag for DDP. But Jake started working a few things with me, started asking a few questions, told me a few things to do. Steve Regal did the same thing. Brad Armstrong worked with me on my lockups, my drop kick. And so here I am doing stuff to help Paige get better, but I'm getting better because of who I'm with. And they're taking a little handful of doing stuff with me here and there. So Paige basically brings me down. I'm maybe a year and a half in the business actually at this time. Takes me down, we put a match together, takes me down to the power plant, and we do like a 15, almost 20-minute match for Jody in front of all the power plant guys. And they didn't know me from, dirt in the wall, from snot stuck on, didn't know from anybody. So everybody knew DDP. So we went and did the match, did this, did that. And afterwards, Jody Hamilton, puts over the match, shows Paige the thing he did. Jody looks at me and goes, "Who the hell are you, kid? How long have you been working?" Because he's never seen me before. And I'm a semi-Z-Man lookalike, I guess you could say, kind of clone, but, good-looking kid, dark hair, mullet going at the time. And I can remember going, well, and DDP goes, "No, let me tell him, Jody, this kid's been working a year and a half." Jody's like, "You're kidding me." Because I could do, I could follow really well and do a few good things, being athletic. And Jody was just like, "Dude, would you like to come do some TVs?" Because I handle the talent for TV matches. I know how to put you in good matches. You won't get eaten alive. You won't get buried. But you can have some, I know I can put you in some competitive matches with guys who will, if they understand who you are, to see you can work, then I can tell them you can work, they may do things with you. And you may get noticed. It's okay, so you got to do something. So I started doing a few TV matches, and one of my first TV matches was in, I think, Columbus, Georgia. And, of course, lucky Steve Regal, who I'd already shared the ring with in the guy's karate school. So Steve knew I could do some stuff. He knew I could follow some of the stuff he did, respond with it, and he knew I could sell his uppercuts and everything else that I worried. And I took a few. So I have an 8-minute match with Regal. Wow, this kid can do some stuff. So next thing you know, I got a match here, a dark match with Rick Rogers at center stage where I go over. I have a dark match with somebody else again as I go over. So Jody's kind of taking care of me, showing these guys I could work. Then they have me and Tommy Angel and the Nasty Boys, where the Nasty Boys actually bumped for me. And I remember I have a match with Steve Austin where it was supposed to be Sam Houston working Steve. Sam Houston wasn't going to make it, so they put me in the match. Jody did. Steve starts walking up and, "Hey, kid, can you work a headlock?" "Yeah." "Okay." 15 minutes later, I'm told Sam Houston's going to be there. I'm not in the match. I'm a little bummed. 15 minutes later, Houston ain't going to be here. You're back in the match. "Kid, can you work an arm?" "Yeah." "Kid, can you work a..." So Steve was messing with me the whole time. And he says, "Well, just listen to me out there. You know what the finish is. My son done." We go out there and just have one heck of a match. Steve is letting me do this. He's letting me do that. I'm working a little bit like I'm working an independent show, house show. Not working on a TV match where I can look back at it now. But I'm following Steve, not missing a beat, doing exactly what he wants me to do. Have a heck of a match. Nick Patrick, remember, he leans over and goes, "I blow it up as all get out." Nick Patrick leans over, "Damn, kid, that was a hell of a match." I walk through the back. I'm still I'm blowed up from working with Steve, still trying to catch my breath. Dusty Rhodes was the first guy who walked in and goes, "Kid, I booked the finish, baby. I knew the match. I knew it was going over. And you and Steve had me going, watching the monitor. Hell of a job, kid." And I was going, wow, I'm going to get to see props from Dusty. And then it was pretty much after that was, a few matches here. They started putting me on the road. That would be like first match. It was Mike Winter. I was having with Eric Watts and Mike Winter, worked Mike Winter in a babyface match, 10-minute draw. First night, Grizzly Smith was the agent. And Grizz walks up to me the next day and says, "Hey, kid, can you carry your old man for another 5 minutes and do a 15-minute Broadway?" I'm like, "Sure." I had no clue. You got to get a hold of him, carry him for 5 minutes, But we went out there and we did our thing. I listened to Mike, he was a little bit more of a veteran, but we just did basically a hole-for-hole type wrestling match. It was good start of the match, no big deal. Some of the guys hit on me a little bit. And then a few months later, still doing a few dark matches here, a few matches there on TV. Me and Eric Watts worked in the main event wrestling against Pillman and Austin. And Austin already worked he hadn't worked a singles match with me yet. That was after Pillman broke up. So we worked a match, and Steve knew I could do some stuff and work with Regal and everything else. My mind's a little bit, I'm off on some of the stuff on what's going on here in these matches that are popping in my head. But me and Steve go out and do some really good stuff at the start of it. I remember Pillman comes in and just grabs me, slaps the piss out of me, snap wears me over, stalks in my face, and throws me in the corner and tells me tag Watts. I can remember after the match, Steve Austin was livid with Pillman. "Why in the world did you do that?" And Boone was like, who knows who he is? It don't matter. Eric Watts got over, and we're like, dude, I went out there and worked with a kid and made the kid look good, and you go and do that? You made me look horrible for you doing that. You just killed any momentum we could have had in a decent match. We were the main event. You treated the kid like garbage. And then after that, the night me and Bagwell won the World Tag Team titles, Boone rode back with us and was one of the coolest guys in the world to me from that point on, you know. But the thing was, it was like, we just had one moment of one match where, you know, he just treated me like I was a punching bag. And from that point on, but when he respected me, because I guess he knew that Austin respected me. So that's basically how a lot of that went. It was match here, good match there, decent match here. I was always, you know, putting guys over. But no one ever ate me up. That was the one good thing that came out of it. And then I remember it was towards the October of 94, Arn Anderson comes at me at center stage and says, kid, you need to get out of here. I'm like, do what? He goes, you need to get out of here. And he goes, you're a good-looking kid, great attitude, you can do stuff in the ring, you've had great matches, but right now Eric Bischoff is out there to take over this company. You need to figure out somewhere you can go where they won't use you here. Otherwise, you won't get caught, and you know you're going to be viewed as one thing, and you'll never progress. You got too much talent to get stuck, and so the weird thing was, not too long after a couple of weeks of Thanksgiving came up, I worked this show with Jake the Snake, Gorgeous Georgia on the show. I was working him, and Jerry Lawler was there. So Jake tells Lawler to watch our match. Lawler comes to me after our match and says, hey, like what y'all did out there, Jake's putting you over strong. You know, I run Memphis, USWA. We work 6 nights a week, twice on Saturday. You know, you're on TV, kind of told me how things went. Goes, you make $40 a day. That's all you get guaranteed. But you'll work, you'll get experience, you'll get exposure. I said, cool. I'm in. He goes, okay, we'll call you first of the year and give you a start date. I said, okay. So I was actually staying at Glacier's place at the time. He was sleeping on his couch. And I remember we were watching football or something. It was January 1st, that afternoon. Get a phone call. And it was Randy Hale, who's the guy who was booking. Said, yeah, we want you to start January 14th. Be at Memphis TV, Channel 5, you know, in Memphis. You got to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. We go live on air at 10:30. You got Nashville that night. You got Memphis on Monday. You got this place on Tuesday. You got this, you know, gave me my first 2-week booking sheet. And so I ended up spending 8 months in Memphis from January of 95 till August of 95. And that's basically after doing the music video with Marcus, Jimmy Hart seeing me in the music video, because Kemper Rogers, the guy who's doing the editing, he did the shooting of the video. He was trying to build up his resume, not just editing TV stuff. He wanted to do different things, so he did a music video and used me and Marcus, and then Jack Heather. And Jimmy Hart saw me on there. Marcus' partner, Patriot, was his split. They tried to put him with Alex Wright and do his thing. Didn't really work out. And that's when Jimmy got the idea of bringing me in to be Bagwell's partner. I'm in Memphis, in Louisville, a Days Inn. And again, I started my first match in February of 92. Right now we're August of 95. And I get a phone call from Janie Engel, who was the head secretary of WCW, Kevin Sullivan's secretary. She basically, anybody from Bischoff, Sullivan, Dusty Rose, Barry Windham, whoever the booker was, she was the head secretary that worked under every one of those guys. She calls me up, says, Kevin Sullivan wants to bring you in to be Marcus Bagwell's partner. Are you interested? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, we'll call you next week at this number. We'll find out what room you are. We know your day's in, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. We'll call you by noon. Next week they call me. Next week they call me. Finally, the fourth week they call me and say, okay, we want you to start on this date. in Orlando. And it's the very next Monday. So I'm in Evansville, Indiana, Wednesday night. I had to tell them I'm finishing up, leaving that night, came back to Atlanta. And here's the wacky thing that almost happened that could have been a huge kerfuffle in the whole thing. And I'm rambling like a chick here. If you ever want to interrupt and stop me, please feel free to if you have a question and answer. Because I'm talking like a chick here, trying to impress a guy. And it is your eargasm, so I don't want to just ramble. But the
you had me at
part
hello,
of this,
dude.
huh?
You had me at hello, dude.
Oh, Greg, hey, I didn't know you were that easy. But that's the one thing I definitely dug about your persona and your character. You when the lights were on, brother, you lived it. You knew who you were. You knew what you were doing, and you carried it out. It was like Jimmy Valiant. I remember seeing Jimmy Valiant in the dressing room walk around like a normal cat who didn't do a thing. You would not even recognize who he was because he just sat back and was like, "Yeah, what's going on, guys?" Da, da, da. And the minute he walked out with that ring, it was the legs kicking up in the air, the hands clapping, the body shaking, all the stuff going on, the handsome Jimmy baby, that he flipped the switch, but when he came back in the back, as he walked through the curtain, he was Jimmy again. He wasn't Jimmy Valiant, you know what I'm saying? And you were the same way, and that was the coolest thing I respected about you. You did that, you were the same exact thing. You did your thing, you did it to the hilt, and as soon as you walked through the curtain, you were you. And that was the coolest thing about you. That was how I knew that you knew who you were, you lived it, you did it, you breathed it, you made it work. And the funky thing that almost happened to me, turned around and Jerry Lawler had us go do some TV, so had me go do some TVs to earn some extra money for WWE, for WWF at the time. So one of the first matches, I go down there, and I can't remember who I worked. I can't remember really who it was offhand, but it was a quick match. It was a tag match, I think, or something. I can't remember. It was a quick boom, boom, boom. They did one quick thing with me, one quick thing with the other guy, it was out. And so the next night, they needed somebody to take a bump from Mr. Fuji to be Lex Luger's flag bearer and take a bump for Fuji because he was doing a thing with Ryoko for the King of the Ring. So for some reason, they picked me. So I had to go out there. They gave me a Lex shirt, a Lex hat. I go up there waving the flag. Lex had no clue who I was. But the coolest thing I got to do is take a bump from Mr. Fuji. He grabs the flag. I go to grab it back from him. He gives me a big chop. I get to take a bump for himself from Mr. Fuji on Raw. Jim Cornette's out there. I'd actually done a few shows with Jim Cornette where I know I'm rambling here again, but I was traveling with Jake the Snake for a little bit, and Jake was working for him. And Jake told him I could do a Scorpio splash, the big flip, and I couldn't do that for nothing. They had me do the Kendo Nagasaki thing for a couple of shows. I actually was the Smoky Mountain TV Beat the Champ thing for 2 weeks. But back to the story is, it's just a thing with me and Lex. And for some reason, Jerry Lawler's dogged me on TV. He was just Scotty kid. I can't remember even what they called me, but they called me by my first name. And I remember, like, Vince was like, "Yeah, this Scotty blah 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 is a young wrestler," and he looked up to Lex Luger and all this stuff, and that's why he's being his flag bearer tonight. And he's out here help Lex, move on the King of the Ring. And I remember Mike Rotundo walked up to me afterwards and says, "Kid, we're gonna keep you for the next couple of nights, but we're not gonna make you work because we want you to. We'll picture on an idea you possibly be Lex's protege, so we don't want to beat you on TV. So you're getting some free money." And the next few weeks later, again, since the 3rd of the summer, they have no TV taping. They bring me to. They bring Gorgeous George there, Robbie Eagle working the gimmick, He was the maestro in WCW. And they had me work a dark match with him at the tryout match for him. And we worked each other a bunch in Memphis, so we could, I knew some things we could do. And so, I can't remember, it was Muck Rotunda, I think it was, again, he says, hey, kid, remember, we were looking at you also. So this is his match, but don't be afraid to look good. And Robbie called some stuff that I had never seen him do before. So basically, I don't know if it was nerves, whatever, he went after kind of flubbed them all up. I looked really good, and it just didn't really pan out for him. But the funky thing for me is it was maybe that same week when I got back to Memphis is when the phone calls started coming from WCW. So here's this weird connection in my life. I'm in Memphis. This is stuff with WWF. This is, getting calls from WCW. I ended up going to WCW. This is things worked out and got me money, and I was hearing nothing from WWF about being Lex's protege. Put me and Bagwell together. We're on the first Nitro, and of course, who shows up at the first Nitro? Lex Luger. So if I would have stuck in Memphis, get back going, no, WCW, I want to go to WWF because they're thinking about doing this with me and Lex. If I'd even thought or waited for that, it would never materialize because Lex had already not planned on leaving, but it happened to Lex left. And next thing you know, he's in WCW with me. That night we're at the Marriott eating food, and he's making fun of me for eating too slow. And I'm sitting at a table with Johnny B. Bad, Alex Wright, Marcus, myself, Lex, and Sting. Such a weird journey to get from February of '92, where I had my first match, to basically September of 1995, to where I'm with WCW, one half the World Tag Team Champion. And on the first Nitro, we worked with Dick Slater and Buck in the opening match. Not on the show, but the warm-up match, basically. We did a 30-minute or 20-something minute match with those guys to start off the show. And then here I am at the table eating dinner with, some of the biggest names in the business at the time. Almost went to work for the other company. Ended up going to work for the right company at the time. And it was, you talk about just wacky. I mean, just the way things panned out, the way things worked, it was just unreal. So yeah, I didn't spend much time at all on the independents. And I always look at it, I always kind of view it in one positive and one negative. The positive thing is that I hit wrestling at the right time. I learned some really good things, did some really good stuff along the way. And it kind of panned out for me to get to be with a good company and really work out well and work with top guys and be a part of a major company. Doing a great part, big part of the business. The negative that came out of that I took was, I can remember RVD, and the only reason I kind of, use him as the example here is I saw how he almost worked with WCW, being Robbie V at the time, and he didn't like the way they wanted to do stuff. But he basically spent the same years that we were working against each other in 92, 93. He was going to Japan, too. And he figured out for years, he figured out who RVD was. He figured out moves that he wanted to do, especially in Japan. And so by the time he was in ECW, I can't remember when exactly he started there, probably in 94, maybe 95, he already knew, in a sense, who RVD was. I was still, by that time, figuring out, I knew how to work. I was a great mechanic, but I didn't know how to do character yet. I didn't know who Scotty Riggs was. Scotty Riggs went from being an American male, then Scotty Riggs went to the Flock, then Scotty Riggs went to ECW and couldn't even be Riggs, but he did the clap thing. So it was, I still never really defined who I was. It was kind of like told who I was, so I never really figured out who I was. Kind of like I was saying, you knew who you were when you did your thing and everything else. You were a persona, and you had that persona down, and people respond to your persona. One of the first things Paul told me when I came in, he goes, "You can work. You can get out there, and the fans are going to hate you for what you did in WCW and everything else. You're going to get the reaction I really want you to have." He goes, "But we need to give you, this, and this." And Paul was the first guy to ever sit down with me. Devin Summer helped me a little bit here and there. They would help me in matches, but Paul, he actually sat down with me and gave me a 6-month plan that he had for me when I first came to the ECW. And he was going to do this with you and this to do with Rob, and end up, turning you on Rob at this point in time, and then have a match with you and Rob, and then there's some things that maybe want to do with you and Carino and this and the other, and ended up getting put into the network. But he goes, "What we want to do with you, especially when I turn you on Rob, is going to have you do the clap, because that's the fans are going to remember the American males. We're going to do the clap thing." And he goes, "It's going to give you a persona. It's going to give you something that these people can hook into." And he goes, "Because your work is great." He goes, "But they just got to figure out who you are as a persona." So I still, I had a rapid career, but I just never really created who I was yet. And that was the one downfall of being able to be a great mechanic, but just not a big, just performer yet. So, there's a catch-22 to everything you do. So there could, I was doing big things, making great strides, but just not defining who I was yet. And that's what I really sucked about it.
So you're in WCW.
How's all that?
Amazing. Very thorough and candid, and that's what our listeners love to hear. You're in WCW, second half of the 90s, 95, 96, 97. These are the years, the Monday Night Wars years that are looked back upon with such esteem. You're there for all of it. It's the peak of your career. It's the highlight of your career at the time, and you're young. You've only been in the business a few years, but you have been in the business for a few solid years. I guess my question is, ECW never quite reached that level, the level of ratings-wise, exposure-wise, what was going on Monday night, the millions upon millions that we're watching. In your life, like whether it's, things that, you noticing how life is changing for you or how you're getting recognized or that kind of thing just around town. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm curious about is, how did you know, when did you know that WCW really had gained such a foothold, that it was such a cultural phenomenon, that it was really the lightning in the bottle, and that you were a part of something that was bigger than anything you'd been a part of thus far to date in the wrestling business? Like, when did you know that your involvement in WCW was really a big deal?
That's actually pretty easy to kind of let you know. Basically, when I moved, when I was going to school in Carrollton, it's West Georgia. It's in Carrollton. It's like, I'd say it was 45 minutes west of Atlanta. And so basically, I moved to Atlanta to get more into the wrestling. And I knew I could live there, everything else, and did a few odd jobs of selling newspapers and stuff during the week, and working at a club here as a bouncer or whatever I did. But I remember there were nights when we would go out and we would go to either a strip club or to a bar, and when people either saw you as a wrestler, they either didn't want you in the bar. And this is Atlanta now. It's where a lot of the guys were living at the time. All the WCW guys were living there. And so you were bumped into each other. There was two places that we went on a regular basis. One was a strip club. It was a sports bar. Can't remember the name of it offhand. I'm picturing it, but I just can't think of the name of it. And the other was a biker bar called Magruder's that was right across the street from it. And it was the only place that you were accepted. Any regular bar you try to go to, they were like, "Oh, you're a wrestler," or they saw you with wrestlers, they didn't want you there. Around the time Nitro, like I said, that was in 93-ish, 94, when I was doing TV, TVs and stuff like that, but I was still living in Atlanta. And then when I went to Memphis, I basically picked up everything, went to Memphis, living in a hotel room 6 nights a week. Basically, depending on where I was at, I was in a hotel room. I was living on my Chevy Blazer. I have my wrestling gear and 2 suitcases of clothes. And that was pretty much about it. And I was living in a hotel room to hotel room. But when I got back into WCW, it was still, but here I was finally getting a little guaranteed money. I wasn't really making a whole lot. I was one after World Tag Team Champions, sleeping on Glacier's couch still in Atlanta because I came back to Atlanta, and, after Memphis. Glacier said, "Yeah, come on back. Still got the couch for you. It's an orange crusty velvet couch." Picture it. and I would wake up and roll off the couch and see my bag there with the World Taking House, and then I'm making $600 a week on a 90-day trial basis, being Bagwell's partner. And Bagwell would, he would flip some of the bill a part of the time because, I was only making so much. And when we started around the road and we'll go to a club or go somewhere else just to have a couple beers or at the hotel bar, you were still accepted, but you just weren't accepted yet. When Nitro hit and things really started to pick up, when we could finally go to either a strip club or a regular bar, and they went, "Holy cow, it's Scotty Riggs, it's Mark Bagwell, it's Alex Ryder, it's this guy, it's that guy. Guys, come on in," and we started getting VIP service. When you walk into a restaurant, Houston's one of the nicest, not a great place. It was a great place. You had to have reservations, but it was easy to get them. Evander Holyfield would be there sometimes. We would bump into some of the Braves guys. We would bump into a few of these guys, a few of those guys on the way, other athletes around town. And they started accepting us. "Hey, it's wrestlers, come on in." And when you started getting VIP treatment across the board, across in other towns, that's when you kind of knew something that was changing. We went from being, they didn't want us in these places, the same places didn't want us, all of a sudden we were getting VIP treatment. We go to Buckhead in Atlanta. This is where, all the bars were, all the places everybody wanted to go. You wanted to meet people, wanted to hang out. You could go from, there was about 20-something bars in a 15, 20 block radius that everybody went to on every weekend night. All of a sudden, we would get shuffled. Well, there's a long line out the door. People would want to get in. They would walk us right in. And that's when you start to realize there was a change in culture, a change in what you were doing, and that all of a sudden we went from being the wrestlers who weren't accepted to all of a sudden we were quasi-celebrities of what we were doing on TV, and everybody wanted a piece of you. I mean, you would go to a coffee shop. "Oh, my gosh, Scotty Riggs, can I get a picture?" Or you go into the mall, and there'd be wrestlers, there'd be fans. "Oh, my gosh, Jason's in the mall, one autographs." And so that's when you kind of knew culturally things started to shift. And like you said, when things really heated up in the war, when they were, you could say a 4.2 rating for Nitro and a 3.6 rating for Raw, that means there's probably 8 to 10 million people watching on a Monday night live. So that's that's a large portion of the country watching what you're doing, and you just suddenly became stars, and it just worked out that way, and especially when they put the tag titles on us in Johnson City. Like I said, Pillman rode back with us, and And you knew things were kind of changing because that night was a huge pop. And that night when we got back to Atlanta the next day, everyone I saw at the gym, holy cow, you're the one at the Royal Tattoo Chest. That is so cool. And then I go to a restaurant. I go to the mall, somewhere along that line, and you were just getting noticed regularly. And so that's when we saw the change shift. We went from guys that were walking on the mall and nobody cared about you. They look at you, oh, that's those wrestlers guys. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, can I get an autograph?
Scotty, last question for tonight, and I'm curious because you got into the business relatively young. You were talking about how you got in kind of right in the tail end of college and that kind of thing. Just wanting to kind of ask you if things hadn't worked out the way they did, if you hadn't have gotten the break, if you hadn't have met the same people, if you hadn't have gotten a start in wrestling, what were you majoring in college? What were your interests beyond wrestling, outside of wrestling? And if you wouldn't have so young started as a professional wrestler, career-wise, what do you think you would have done for a living? What do you think you would have done with life?
That's actually pretty easy. I was a business management major. And during my Christmas breaks, I would work for UPS delivering packages. And basically started off, a friend of the family worked for me in Atlanta. And so I came over for Christmas break in Savannah and was home for like 2 days, and then was put on a bus to Atlanta. Took a bus to Atlanta and worked for like 2.5 weeks, helping deliver packages during Christmas rush. So I was working 5 days a week, 8 to 11-hour days, depending on how, not really 11 hour, but 8-10-hour days, and making $8 an hour. So I made decent money during that time, and did it for probably, that was 3-4 straight Christmases, I guess it was, before when I graduated in 92, I'd already started wrestling, and I was already started wrestling in May of 92 when I graduated from college. So if I probably not getting into wrestling, I probably went to work for UPS. And since I had a management degree, I probably could have started off because, as a driver, I had connections. It would have been an easy thing to go from Carrollton to Atlanta. Because pretty much soon after that, I got a car. I was living in Carrollton. I would drive to the hub in Atlanta. I was the only, because most of the time they would meet their driver's helpers along the road, at a certain pickup spot. I was the only driver's helper that would actually meet his driver at the hub in Atlanta, basically because of some family connections. I would go there at the hub, and I worked with the same driver. I can picture his face, I can't think of his name, but I worked with the same driver every year, so we really got to know each other. We had a good chemistry, and I probably would have went to work for UPS. It would have been a no-brainer to just basically start to work for them during Christmas breaks. I could have easily probably started off as a driver and worked my way into a management position. Use my degree.
You would have been delivering a different kind of American mail, huh?
Wow, you went there, didn't you? Yeah, it would have been different. I would have been, but as they used to say, it would have been a drizzling shit because it would have been an all brown. Different brown packages, driving a brown truck, so as they say, just, he's drizzling shit to us and just put him in an all brown outfit. So that would have been my gimmick.
That's awesome. Scotty, plug anything you want to plug, man, whether it's where you're going to be or for sure social media so that people can be in touch, stay in touch. But any message you have that you want to get in before we go, and anything social media or otherwise that you want to plug, please, this is your chance.
Well, if anybody wants to hook up and keep up with me, you'll see how much of a Dallas Cowboys fan I am on my social media of real Scotty Riggs. And it's nice and verified thanks to one little agent that I had from Score, Sports. And, so there's only one of me out there, it's me. And,
dude, you are followed. You're not just verified, official, and valid, but you are followed by some heavy hitters. I've seen who follows you too. I've seen who participates on your page when it comes to Dallas Cowboys stuff and elsewise. But dude, I mean, you know, some definite heavy hitters, some definite influencers. There's a lot of people interacting with you on your account. I love your account.
Dude, I just being a wacky person. Every now and then I follow a celebrity here or follow a news person there. Just, you know, just little things along the way, you know, where people I would follow, people I would keep up with. I drop a message to, and being verified helps. But yeah, you know, just I've told you, I think it was the other day when we first started talking about, you know, doing your show here. I've been having fun with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, you know, old Negan from Walking Dead. And he actually started last year when my Cowboys beat the Seahawks. I dropped him a line, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit here, a little bit there over a few things. And then as this season started going, Jeremy Palka, who was also on The Walking Dead, followed me. And so we kind of, you know, the three of us would have back and forth last year over it. This year started, I picked it up off again with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, a quick little quip with him. Next thing I know, he's busting my balls over something. I said, dude, if you follow me, you knew I would have said this. 5 minutes later, the son of a gun followed me. I was like, wow, here I am with my favorite TV villains I'm interacting with, and the son of a gun follows me. And out of nowhere, and a few times, he would send me a message. Hey, I saw a thing on ESPN where Stephen A. Smith is putting over your Cowboys and saying they're just as good as my Seahawks. And, you know, the guy started, you know, thinking about, hey, I'm going to message him and say something to him. It was kind of cool. And yes, I'm marking out a little bit for you right here, because to me, it's just kind of cool. You got a big name celebrity that, you know, has done a lot of great things. I was a fan of his stuff from The Losers. I was a fan of his stuff in The Watchmen when he was a comedian. And now doing Negan, like I said, my favorite villain. I'm talking with him. And, you know, he got a lot of the boys that follow me. And it's just really kind of cool. Being verified does help. The one thing I've learned is you just don't be obnoxious. You treat people kind of like, I know I'm rambling a bit here, but it's almost like I said before when I started doing stuff with WCW and putting up the rings and shows. And as a fan, I go to a show, but if you act like you belong, they accept you. You treat them like normal people. And, you know, I've never talked about Walking Dead. I've never talked about anything. I know, hey, dude, it's so cool for this. I can't believe. I just said, you know, I'm just talking football. We're just two cats talking football. I think that's why he's going, this guy's okay to talk to. I'm not some moron who's going to drive him crazy. That's why he followed me, I think, because I just treat him like a regular person. I've always found that out. You treat like people like regular people, even if they are a celebrity. I get so many things because I'm tagged in a conversation where people are like, hey, Jeff, just want to say hi. How are you, Adam? Or, hey, Jeff, this, or hey, Jeff, that, or I'm a big fan of Jeff, and a picture of somebody here, or a picture there, or a gift of. I'm sitting there going, geez, I can only imagine why he only gets on here a few times a day or a few times here and just deals with me here or there. All these people just, I get it every now and then, but dude, every single time he gets on there, it's 30, 40, 50 messages. I go, wow, how do you deal with that? So I don't do it. I just, hey, here's a quick quip and I'm out. And if we carry on a quick convo for a few rounds, cool. I don't know if you want to call everything heavy hitters or anything like that. It's just, dude, everybody I've talked to, some of the celebrities I've followed, it's just a quick message here, and they respond back, or they hit me here, and I respond back, and it's one quick thing, and they're out. And the next thing you know, they got people driving them bananas. So
your account's cool as hell, dude. Your account's amazing. I love seeing what's going on.
I just have fun with the football stuff. I have fun. I got a few young wrestlers and stuff that I do follow, and I always try, if I see a gift or a little good thing that they do, a little video thing, I always put their stuff over. And if I say, hey, do this next time, they're like, be grateful for me. And And so just be respectful and helpful to the younger generations out there. If I can say one or two good things to help somebody out, I do my best. I get to be an asshole every now and then on there. I think we all enjoy doing that. So, you pick up a little extra attention when you be a jerk. I do a lot of American Male stuff because I know that song 20 years later still gives everybody a headache. So, and I always get the thing where I took that first Dan Van Terminator from RVD. So I always get the anniversary of taking that move. I'm like, yeah, the first one broke my nose. I still remember Lance Storm sent me one thing one time because he asked me about it. I said, yeah, the first time I took it in Kansas City, broke my nose and basically put me off from TV and stuff. I was doing a few things here and there with Carino. I couldn't wrestle any matches. My face was actually broke. So we figured out a safer way for me to take it on the pay-per-view. And I said, yeah, on the pay-per-view, he just knocked me out. I said it kind of jokingly. And Lance was like, no way. So it wasn't breaking your nose and knocking you out? That wasn't cool. I said, no, actually, he did knock me out. I said, it looked like it did. He goes, dude, let me believe him because, yeah, I said, it looked like he KO'd you because you were dead limp for him. And I said, well, that's just kind of how I wanted to make the move look. I wanted to make it look that cool. When you're going to do something that cool, you make it look cool. So that's a nice way to be remembered, being taken advantage of the damn thing. And, of course, yeah, with the old, the old network, a few things that with that Corino, a few people remember us doing that thing. So the flock, the eye patch thing always gets some hits. People, always get a few jokes about that. How real was it? And you always get the questions, those things. So people fans is kind of cool. I don't get obliterated with likes and retweets and stuff like that, which is kind of cool because there's one time I did do a thing with I know I'm rambling here again, but it was to the Iranian Ayatollah Romani or something like that, when he sent a message somehow on a tweet, and then everybody started quote tweeting it with some American thing, and I quote tweeted it with the American Male lyrics. And the next thing you know, it had like 300 to 400 retweets and like 2,000 or 3,000 likes. And when your mentions blow up like that, you wish they hadn't. Even though, man, this is cool, but God, this sucks. Because you can't do anything else. I've learned from this point on, I don't even worry about notifications being on, because if something hits like with somebody else, like with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, when it hits with him, I can have 100 notifications on my phone. I've basically turned my notifications off. I'll put a tweet out or I put a conversation out, and I just let it go. And I'll come back an hour later and need to do a few responses or see if I get, hey, I got 3 likes, cool. Or, damn it, I got 300 likes. This is a pain in the ass. I don't see how, I see how some guys tweet, once a day or 3 times a day because their stuff blows up and it gets nuts. I see your stuff every now and then. We'll get something that makes people go boom, boom, boom. I'm going like, hey, I'm sure he's liking it, but in a few more minutes we'll be pissed. Because then you can't really use your thing anymore. You go, okay, I can't do anything because now there's stuff going on. That's like my Cowboys, getting beaten here right now. I'm doing this with you. I'm giving you an eargasm, but I'm having blue ball here because my Cowboys beat 24-14.
Well, we were
fourth quarter.
Coming into the week, last couple of days, and today, finalizing it, we were scheduling, and then you had reminded me, you had mentioned that it was the Cowboys game tonight, and I knew how much that might mean to you, but I gave you the out. I was like, let's do it tomorrow, let's do it over the weekend, let's not do it on Thursday night during your game, and but you were gracious enough to say, nah, Cowboys game, yes, no, we're gonna. During the middle of the game. I really appreciate that more than you know.
I'll say this will tell your listeners kind of when we're doing this, but again, the thing is like it is. So we haven't talked in a little while, so it's like, hey, I'm like, no, I'm not going to put off talking to you to do a football game. The time you wanted to do this was between the second quarter, halftime. So it's like, hey, it's like a wrestling match. You watch the opening spots of the match. The heart of the match kind of tell the story. but then you really want to be there for the finish. You want the finish to be good. I don't mind sitting back, when we're working headlocks and arm bars here and telling a story during the football game. I don't mind being here for this. So it's, I'm not happy with how the story of the match is going. I'm the heel, and the baby face is bouncing the wall like I'm throwing off a wall here.
I appreciate you more than you know. I appreciate you, my dude. I thank you for taking the time, dude. And honestly, like an hour 15, an hour 20 in the blink of an eye, man. I could have happily talked with you for another 4 hours. We could have happily done a 269-minute eargasm because honestly, it's a walk to the park, man. It really is the breath of fresh air talking to you. I want to thank you so much, Scotty, for being on with me. It means a lot during the game and just taking the time, and also, in everything that you said and all the questions that you answered, and being so thoughtful and so candid and so thorough. And it's been great catching up with you, man. I'll be talking to you soon. Definitely, everybody, hit him up on Twitter. Find him. If you're not already following him on Twitter, you should. It's just a worthwhile follow. If you have Twitter, he's the kind of person that you have it for. It's a good time. Scotty, love you, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, my friend. Love you very much. You're definitely a brother. And we'll be chatting more, I'm sure, to keep in contact with. All right?
We'll do. We'll have more 69-minute eargasms. Thank you, dude. We'll have more after this.
Definitely.
And well, it is that time to elucidate upon the mystery of history, specifically the history of professional wrestling. And to do that, as always, we go to our Today in Pro Wrestling segment, hosted by the one, the only, the inimitable John Pantozzi.
Okay, thank you, Joel. All right, let's go back not too far to 1974 in Tokyo, Japan. Jack Briscoe regains the NWA World Heavyweight title from Giant Baba. Now we go to Memphis, Tennessee in 1985, where Jerry Lawler and Austin Idol beat Bill Dundee and Dutch Mantel to win the Southern Tag Team titles. 1 year later in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Ron Garvin and Barry Windham defeated Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev to win the NWA U.S. Tag Team Championship. 1988 in Tokyo, Japan, Tatsumi Fujinami defeated Kerry Von Erich for the World Class Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight title. The same year in Mexico City, Lizmark defeats Fabuloso Blondie Ken Timbs to win the NWA Light Heavyweight title. Now we jump to 1995, where ECW presented December to Dismember from the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in an Ultimate Jeopardy Steel Cage match. Public Enemy, the Pitbulls, and Tommy Dreamer defeated the Heavenly Bodies, the Eliminators, Raven, and Stevie Richards. On the same card, the Sandman defeated Mikey Whipwreck and Steve Austin in a three-way dance to win the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. 2001 WWF Vengeance in San Diego, California. In two separate matches, Chris Jericho defeats The Rock and Steve Austin to become the first WWF Undisputed Champion. And finally, in 2003 in Osaka, Japan, Shinsuke Nakamura defeats Hiroyoshi Tenzan to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And that wraps it up for December 9th.
All right. Thank you very much for, as always, a great look at December 9th in professional wrestling history. And listeners, keep it right here. We'll have more Eargasm after this.